First up, for our simnel cake, we need to soak our dried fruit. So you can do your own mix again, some raisins, some sultanas. Jam have a beautiful gourmet mixed fruit, which I'm going to be using today. And that is a range of sultanas. There's raisins in there. There's also currants, dried apricots, mixed peel, lemon peel, dried pineapple, some cherries. So they really have everything in there in that mix, so it just saves you so much time. So I'm going to be adding my mixed fruit to my bowl here with some of the glacé diced cherries, and I'm just going to be soaking those. I do like glacé cherries, that's why I have additional glacé cherries here in the mix. So into my bowl here, I'm just going to be adding in that beautiful Gem gourmet mixed fruit. And to that, I'm just going to be soaking that here with tea. So at this point here, you can add in whiskey, you can add in rum, whatever it is your preference is. I'm just going to keep this one just with plain tea. Again, you can get creative here and use a little bit of Earl Grey, depending on what your tastes are. And you're going to leave this to soak now for a minimum of 2 hours, preferably about 4 to 6 hours if you can, but minimum 2 hours, and then they are ready to be added to the cake. Next up is the cake batter itself. So into my stand mixer, I'm going to be creaming together some room temperature butter and some brown sugar. So with Gem here, you have two different options. You can use the light soft brown sugar, or you also have the dark soft sugar. Either of these work completely fine in the cake. You can even use caster sugar if you wish. But what I would say to you is try and use the brown, because it definitely helps with the flavour and the colour. So what I'm going to be using today is the soft dark sugar, this one here. Again, as I said, this really does add a lovely caramelly depth of flavour to your simnel cake, and it does help with the colour payoff. So into the bowl, I'm going to be adding that. I'm going to be creaming that together for a couple of minutes until the butter and brown sugar is nice and soft. So this has been mixing now for about 3 to 4 minutes, and I'm just going to gradually start adding the eggs one by one and just mixing them through until they're fully incorporated, and then I'll add the next stage, and so on and so forth until all 3 eggs are mixed. That's all of my eggs fully incorporated in, and next is the golden syrup. This is a sticky job. I'm going to be adding that in and mixing that through until it is fully incorporated. And when that's mixed in, that is ready to go. That's the base of the cake mix ready. So next I'm just going to be adding in my orange zest, the Gem ground almonds. I'm just going to be sieving in my dry ingredients, which is the self-raising flour, the baking powder, and the mixed spice. And again, just going to sieve that now over the mix. I'm going to be folding this together and then finally adding in the pre-soaked dried fruit. So this is a lovely soft mix, as you can see, even with all of the dry ingredients added in. And next up is my pre-soaked fruits. So they can all go in, and again, any of the liquid that is left in the bowl, make sure that goes in as well. So just going to scrape all of that delicious soaked fruit in. Just going to pop this over here, and again, just fold this through until everything is incorporated. I'm just going to take a third of my marzipan. Just going to give it a knead just to ensure that it's all the same consistency. Just leaves it a lot easier to roll. This is store-bought marzipan. You can make your own. That's completely up to yourself. And this is the disc that is going to be sitting in the center of the cake. So we're going to be putting some of the cake mix into the prepared tin, and then we will be putting half the mix into the prepared tin. Then we're going to be putting on a nice disc of this marzipan in the middle, and then topping it with the remaining cake mix. And this is a beautiful little touch just in the center of the cake. So again, just keep turning that until we get, obviously our cake tin is 20 centimeters. So we want this to be in around about 19 or so, just to ensure that it just sits in the center of the cake. So just like that, I'm going to be taking a knife, cutting that circle all around. And these trimmings we'll keep for the top of our cake. And there's a small bit missing there, so I'm going to patch that up. And that is our nice marzipan disc, ready to rock to go into the center of our cake. I have just lined the base of a 20 centimeter loose bottom cake tin with parchment paper, and I've just greased that with a little bit of butter and lightly dusted it with flour. Now I'm going to spoon in half of our prepared cake mix. I'm just going to push that down, and then we have our marzipan disc that we've just rolled out, ready to go. So I'm just going to set that to one side. I'm just going to spread this nice soft mix, ensuring that it is reaching the bottom of our tin, like so. Next, we're just taking our nice disc of marzipan, which sits perfectly into the center. And then finally, we're just going to be topping that with our remaining Simnel cake mix. And I'm just going to spread that out. So my oven is preheating at 170 degrees Celsius. That would be 150 fan. And this will take in around an hour and a half or so to bake. So again, just pressing this down with the back of a spoon, like so. And that is ready for the oven. So that is my delicious Simnel cake out of the oven. As you can see, beautiful golden brown colour all over. What I like to do is actually flip this over. So what you're looking at here is actually the base of the cake. Because we're going to be decorating this with more marzipan, it's a flatter surface to work with. So I like to flip the cake over and let it cool completely then that way. But as you can see, looks absolutely gorgeous and smells amazing. Now, while my cake is cooling, I am going to be making the decoration that goes on top of the Simnel cake. This part here is completely optional in regards to colouring the marzipan. I don't know what it is, I just love that yellow marzipan on top of the Simnel cake. You can leave it neutral just like this, and that's completely fine, but I'm just going to be adding in some yellow food colouring paste. Important at this point here, you don't really get that much of a good colour payoff if you're using a liquid. So with these pastes here, all you need is a tiny little bit. Even I would say dipping in the tip of the teaspoon and adding that to your marzipan will give you a lovely yellow colour. Again, as I said, you can leave it neutral and leave your marzipan nice and plain. I am going to be adding that little touch of yellow colouring just to give it that Easter feel. As you can see, I just added in a touch of yellow food colouring. You don't need to go crazy on it. It just adds a nice little yellow, hue to the marzipan. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut this in half. And this half is going to make our 11 little signature balls to represent the apostles sitting on top of the cake. And this half here, I'm just going to roll, and I have a bowl here that actually measures the 20 centimeters. That's the size of the top of the cake. So I'm just going to roll this out as less waste as possible. So you just kind of want to roll it until you get to the 20 centimeter mark. Use your bowl here as a guide, or anything that you have that measures the same as the top of the cake. Cut that out, and then we're going to glaze that and put that sitting on top of the cake with our balls here. So I have my marzipan disc that's going to be sitting on top, and I have my 11 marzipan balls as well. So the next step is then to use a nice edible glue. So I have some apricot jam here. You can use marmalade. Just ensure that you are using a smooth jam, because if a marmalade or an orange rind from the marmalade is sitting on top, sometimes that can show up when you put your marzipan disc on, depending how thin or how thick the marzipan is. So just like so, I'm just going to be brushing the top of my cake. You don't need to brush the sides because we're not sticking anything to the sides. Just cover it completely with the apricot jam. And we're just simply going to lift our disc up and pop that on top. Don't be worried if there's still a little bit of flour or icing sugar, I should say, on the marzipan, because we can dust that off at a later stage. So very carefully, just like so, just going to lay that on top of our cake. Like so. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pinch the edges of the marzipan just to give it a nice little crimped design, which again is more for presentation than anything else. So that's it, folks. That is the absolutely beautiful decorated Simnel cake. So as you can see then, just around the edges here, I have simply just crimped the edges of our marzipan. And then I placed all 11 balls on the cake first, just to see where they all fit in place. Because sometimes people may have slightly bigger or a little bit smaller. So again, arrange them on the top first to ensure that they're all kind of spaced out evenly. And what I do then is I come back afterwards, take each ball off, and make a small indent either with the back of a teaspoon or a clean finger, and then that creates almost like a little pocket where the ball then sits in place. So it just means then you can move your cake and you can transport it, and there's no fear of the little marzipan balls falling off. Now, again, this is just a personal thing, but I think that the yellow looks absolutely beautiful. Again, for me, it's just got more of an Easter kind of a feel to it. You can leave it completely neutral. I see what a lot of people like to do if they have a blowtorch then as well. Some people like to blowtorch the top of the cake and the marzipan balls just to kind of give that like a caramelized look for it. But with me here, I'm just going to stick with a very classic, simple Easter look with our Simnel cake, our red ribbon, and our light pastel yellow coloured marzipan. So that's it, guys. That is my gem-inspired Easter Simnel cake. I really hope you enjoyed that tutorial. And if you do make this cake at home, please do let us know.